Sometimes, it's not what we say that creates distance. It's how we say it. Or, more precisely, it's the tiny words we sprinkle into our sentences, thinking they're harmless, when in truth, they carry weight we don't see. I want to talk to you about that. Because maybe, just maybe, your best intentions are being lost, not in your message, but in your tone, in the hidden flaws of your language. Words like but, should, and actually might seem small, but they can quietly rupture connection. Let me explain. You tell someone, "I appreciate your effort, but..." And the moment you say that word but, everything before it vanishes. It's as if you erased your compliment with a single syllable. Or you say, "You should really consider," and instantly, the other person feels judged, not seen, not understood, but pressured, pushed. Or you offer, "Actually, what I meant was," and suddenly the conversation turns defensive. Because even when we mean to clarify, we sound like we're correcting. And here's the deeper truth. People don't resist your ideas. They resist how those ideas make them feel. And those little words, but, should, actually, they awaken something ancient in the human heart, the need to protect dignity. Even if they agree with you, they pull back, not because your logic is wrong, but because your energy felt like resistance. And that's the flaw we so often miss. We focus on the content, but connection lives in the context, the emotional atmosphere we create with our words. So what can we do instead? We begin by becoming aware, by noticing, by choosing words that invite rather than correct, that include rather than contradict, that say, "I'm with you," even when we don't fully agree. Because connection isn't built on being right. It's built on being safe to talk to. You see, language is not just a tool, it's a mirror. It reveals what's happening inside us. If our words are sharp, rushed, or corrective, it often means our inner world is anxious, defensive, or afraid. And when that energy leaks into a sentence, even the most helpful message can feel like an attack. So instead of but, what if we said and? I really appreciate your effort, and I wonder if we might try a slightly different approach next time. Notice the shift. The appreciation stays intact. The idea still evolves, but the heart remains open. Instead of should, what if we asked, "Have you considered?" "You should call your sister" becomes, "Have you thought about reaching out to her lately?" Now it's not pressure, it's partnership. And instead of actually, we might simply say, "That's interesting. I had experienced it a little differently." It's subtle, but it removes the need to correct and replaces it with curiosity. There's a quiet kind of influence that begins when we stop pushing and start inviting, when our words become less about control and more about creating space. And that space is where trust is born. I once coached a man who struggled with leadership. His team didn't follow him. not because he lacked intelligence, but because his words, though logical, carried subtle tension. He'd say things like, "You're doing a good job, but here's the real way." Or, "That's an okay idea, actually." Over time, his people withdrew, not because he was cruel, but because they didn't feel safe to offer their best. When he replaced but with and should with might, his influence began to grow, not just because he sounded nicer, but because he became more present, more attuned, more connected. And maybe that's the lesson here. Small words reveal big patterns. And if we're brave enough to change our words, we can change the entire emotional climate we create. There's a sacred quality to words. They either soften or harden the spaces between us. And most of the time, we don't even realize the impact we're having. Not because we lack kindness, but because we lack awareness. That's why changing your language isn't about being polite. It's about being present, spiritually awake, emotionally anchored. It's about asking yourself before you speak, am I trying to connect or control? Am I inviting reflection or provoking resistance? Because words carry energy, and even the smallest word, used unconsciously, can shut a door that was just beginning to open. And here's what's remarkable. When you remove the friction from your speech, people don't just listen, they relax. Their nervous system calms, their defensiveness melts, and suddenly they feel safe enough to grow. It's not magic, it's intention. And maybe you've already noticed this, that the people you trust most aren't the loudest. They don't talk over you, they don't rush to correct, they don't fill the air with but and should and actually. They listen, they speak with care, and when they disagree, they do it gently, almost as if they're holding something fragile. Because they're holding you. That's the kind of communicator we all long to become. Not someone who dominates, but someone who heals, through presence, through tone, through the subtle discipline of conscious speech. There's a verse I return to often. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt. That's not just scripture, that's guidance. That's a daily invitation to speak in ways that lift rather than lower. And the beauty of it is this: the more you practice speaking gently, the more gentle you become, not just with others, but with yourself. Because your language reveals your level of inner peace. And when you carry peace, your words become shelter. So, from this day forward, let your words be slow to correct, quick to connect. Let them wrap around others like a warm presence, not to impress, not to persuade, but to remind people, you are safe here. Because in the end, what we say matters far less than how we make people feel when we say it. And maybe the greatest gift you can offer isn't eloquence, it's gentleness. Not accuracy, but attunement. Not verbal precision, but emotional permission. Permission to speak without being judged. Permission to feel without being corrected. Permission to change freely, not forcefully. You don't need to walk on eggshells. You don't need to censor your truth. You just need to season it with compassion. Try it today. Before you say but, try and. Before you offer should, try asking, have you considered? Before you begin with actually, pause and ask if it's your ego trying to be right or your soul trying to connect. You'll be amazed at how people soften. Not because you've compromised your truth, but because you've dignified theirs. And when people feel dignified, they open, they reflect, they trust. That's the true reward of mindful language. Not power, not persuasion, but presence. The kind of presence that doesn't need to prove anything. The kind of presence that speaks with silence just as much as with sound. So speak as one who understands that every word shapes the soul of another. Every sentence can bless or bruise. Every tone carries a spiritual signature. Let your signature be kindness. Let your speech become a sanctuary. Let your words say, without needing to say, I see you, I hear you, and I'm with you, not above you. That is how you change the atmosphere. That is how you build connection. That is how you begin to heal the world, one sentence at a time.